Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to another Pokemon Sun and Moon Movesets video. Today's video is going to be all about Mudsdale, so let's get started by taking a look at this Pokemon's typing, abilities, and stats. So to start things off, Mudsdale is a pure ground-type Pokemon that possesses 3 abilities, the first of which being Own Tempo, which is an ability that makes it so that this Pokemon can never be confused. As for its next ability, and more so the Pokemon's signature ability in a matter of speaking, it is known as Stamina, which is an ability that makes it so that whenever this Pokemon is damaged by a contact move, it gets a +1 physical defense boost. Its last ability, however, is known as Inner Focus, which is its hidden ability and makes it so that this Pokemon cannot be flinched. As for its stats though, the first thing to note is that this Pokemon is fairly bulky, possessing base 100 HP, 100 defense, and 85 special defense, allowing this Pokemon to take hits very well from both the physical and special sides, and more so even the physical if you are running the Stamina ability, because as you take hits that cause contact, your defense will be boosted even further. As for its attacking stats, Mudsdale also is in possession of a very high physical attack, being base 125, allowing it to do a lot of physical damage, but unfortunately its special attack is only base 55, so you won't really be making use of that too often. Its last stat to also make note of is that it is a base 35 speed Pokemon, meaning that it is decently slow in compared to most things that you may see Mudsdale matched up against, but because of its low speed, it does actually compensate for this, unlike some other Pokemon introduced in this generation, by having really good defensive stats to at least take a hit before it goes down and dish out some damage with its powerful physical attack stat. But with that, let's take a look at the first moveset that I have for you in this video. So for this first moveset, we're going to begin by giving Mudsdale an Adamant Nature to increase its physical attack but lower its special attack. And for the ability, either going with Stamina to allow this Pokemon to match up a little bit better against attackers making use of contact moves, or Inner Focus to make it so that Mudsdale cannot be flinched by a faster opponent. As to the EVs, we're going to put 168 into its HP stat to give it some decent bulk investment, 252 EVs into its physical attack to max that out, and then put the remainder 88 EVs into its speed stat to allow Mudsdale to outspeed base 45 speed Pokemon that it would very much so benefit from being able to beat and not have to worry about either be slower than or lose a speed tie with. Now I do anticipate that this EV spread may change in the future, maybe investing more in speed if it wants to outspeed some more things, or just more in bulk if the speed investment isn't necessary, but this is what I'm going to go with for right now until we know a little bit more about the metagame as it develops. But for the item, we're either going to go with a Choice Band to increase its physical attack power, a Life Orb to increase the power of all of its attacks at the cost of losing 10% of its health every time it damages its opponent, an Expert Belt to boost the damage of super effective moves, an Assault Vest to boost its special defense, which when used in combination with the Stamina ability can be very effective, Leftovers to allow this Pokemon to recover some HP at the end of every turn, or a Chesto Berry to work in combination with Rest in order to allow this Pokemon to heal up to full and shed any negative statuses it may have received. As for the moves, the first one we're going to go with is going to be Earthquake as our main stab ground type attack, and then using that in combination with our next move on the set, Rock Slide, as a way to give this Pokemon some really great type coverage and a way to hit pretty much everything for neutral damage. On the other hand though, since this won't allow us to hit everything, we're going to run Close Combat in the third move slot to also give this Pokemon some additional type coverage. And I am fully aware that there is quite a bit of overlap between what these 3 moves hit super effectively, but at the same time, there are such variants of different type combinations nowadays that having these 3 moves in combination with each other will be very helpful to allow Mudsdale the easiest time of hitting things super effectively. As for its last move though, we have a few options here, either going with Heavy Slam, which is going to be a very powerful Steel type move because Mudsdale, interestingly enough, is one of the heaviest Pokemon in the game. We could also go with Payback as a way to deal some really good Dark type damage that could also be increased in power if we go second, so do keep that in mind. Even with the speed investment, we are still a little bit slow, so keep that as like an option on the back burner potentially. We could also run Counter here as a way to allow Mudsdale to deal some damage that it just received back at its opponents, which is very good for the HP and defense stat that this Pokemon has. Or we can run Rest as hinted before, with the Chesto Berry combination, or without it if you have maybe a Heal Beller or Aromatherapy user on the team, as a way to allow this Pokemon to regain all of its health back and allow it to last longer in battle. As to this next moveset, we're going to keep Mudsdale as a powerful physical attacker, but focus a little bit more on sustaining it throughout the battle. So again, we're going to go with the Adamant Nature to boost its physical attack but lower its special attack, go with either the Stamina or Inner Focus ability, and then run the same EV spread as the previous moveset. But for the item this time, we're going to choose either between a Life Orb to boost our damage, Leftovers to allow us to recover some health at the end of every turn, or a Rocky Helmet as a way of allowing this Pokemon to get some damage on its opponents that hit it with contact moves. And it's also important to note that you can use this item very effectively with the Stamina ability, as not only will they boost your physical defense when they hit you with a contact move, but they will also take extra damage with the Rocky Helmet, so it is kind of a cool little combination to keep in mind. But as for the moves, the way that we're achieving the sustain throughout the battle is by running this as a rest talk set to allow this Pokemon to recover all of its health, and then continue to be a threat with Sleep Talk randomly selecting one of your moves while you're asleep. As for those main attacks though, again, we're going to go with Earthquake to be your main ground type stab, and then either running Rock Slide, Close Combat, or Heavy Slam in your second move slot to give this Pokemon some additional type coverage and allow it to damage more opponents while it continues to rest up and sustain itself throughout the battle. There is, however, a more bulky way that you could potentially run this moveset. So for this variation, we're going to begin by giving it a Careful Nature to increase its special defense but lower its special attack, and then run the Stamina ability, and then go with an EV spread of 252 HP EVs, 116 physical defense EVs, and 140 special defense EVs to give this Pokemon some well-rounded mixed bulk and allow it to take both physical and special hits pretty well. There is obviously another way where you could run this EV spread as being fully physically defensive, but overall, if you do a little bit more of a mixed bulk spread like the one presented here, I think you can get more use out of Mudsdale in the long run on a Rest Talk set. As for this last moveset, it's going to be more or less another variation on what this Pokemon could potentially run for a defensive set. So again, we're going to begin by giving it the same nature of a Careful Nature, running the Stamina ability, and then the same EV spread as before with 252 HP EVs, 116 defense EVs, and 140 special defense EVs, and then running Leftovers as the item to allow this Pokemon to recover some HP at the end of every turn. As for the moves though, this time, this set is more so designed to deal with more things that you might be able to have to match Mudsdale up against. So for the first move, we're actually going to be making use of Protect as a way to allow this Pokemon to not only scout moves that your opponent may be going for, but also give you a little bit more Leftovers recovery since we're not running Rest on this set, and also work in combination with the last move being Toxic as a way to wear down your opponents over time. It's also really important to note that ground types packing Toxic are very, very good because anything that is immune to Toxic, such as Steel types and Poison types, takes super effective damage from your ground type moves. So that in itself just gives you some really good coverage. And speaking of ground type moves, we're obviously going to run Earthquake yet again on the set to be your main stab ground type move, and then going between the options of either Rock Slide, Close Combat, or Heavy Slam in your second move slot to give this Pokemon a little bit more type coverage and allow it to hit other things super effectively. But overall, this variation is more so designed as a way to counter more things because we're going to potentially be able to wear some stuff down with Toxic as opposed to just keeping Mudsdale alive for longer like the previous moveset did. But if you want to use the other one, which is still just as effective, it may benefit significantly from Toxic Spike's support on another teammate that you might be using. But that is it for this video, everybody, so stay tuned for some more Pokemon Sun and Moon moveset videos, and as always, take care, goodbye, and I will see you all next time.